Well, this your guy, Dennis Fair. Retired member of the Metropolitan Police Department, serving 29 years straight, uncut service. Before I get started, hit the subscribe button. Just hit the subscribe button. Come on now. And hit the like button. Let's get that started. As you know, everything that I say for the most part, I got to say this because you never know who's going to be watching for the first time. These are my opinions. I'm not affiliated with the Metropolitan Police Department or no organization but reality. As we all know, the election is coming up tomorrow. We're almost less than 24 hours away. I would suggest use common sense when you go out. Use discretion. This is probably going to be one of the most, how can I describe it, controversial elections ever. I personally am going to tell you some things that obviously the Metropolitan Police Department or your local government are not going to tell you. I'm not going to endorse any candidate because that's just not me. If you start endorsing candidates, that's just like talking about religion. Somebody going to find some fault in it. And I don't personally do political or religious gangbanging. And what I mean by that, a lot of times, it's the red against the blue. A lot of times when you talk about politics, no different than gang culture. And a lot of times people say, well, wait a minute, hold up. It's not as violent. Oh, yes, it can be as violent. And that's just what I'm going to touch on. Regardless of whoever you're voting for, use some common sense. And I'm not talking about as who you choose. That's your business. I have nothing to do with that. It's none of my business. But I will tell you this. And remember I said it first, so you can come back and share it with your friends, whatever. If Donald Trump wins, which could happen, or if Donald Trump loses, which could happen. Obviously, somebody's going to take a L. Somebody's going to take a loss. I will say this. If for whatever reason Donald Trump loses, there's going to be violence. Let me say that again. If Donald Trump loses, there will be violence. And when I'm talking about violence, I'm referring to homegrown terrorism. So I'm suggesting that if you do go out, use some discretion on where you go. Watch your surroundings, because regardless of where you go at any given time, there could develop an active shooter. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know the mentality of some of these individuals that are really supporters of Donald Trump. You don't know the mentality of some of the individuals that support Kamala Harris. But I'm telling you again, and I'm not wishing this and I'm not hoping this, I'm telling you now, if Donald Trump loses, there will be violence. And I do not endorse this. I did not endorse Donald Trump. I did not endorse Kamala Harris. However, I endorse reality. The Metropolitan Police Department is not going to tell you this. They're not going to tell you anything. Pamela Smith, the chief of police, is not going to tell you this. Muriel Bowser is not going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you again. If Donald Trump loses, there will be violence. So let that sink in. Watch your kids, watch your loved ones. Use discretion if you go out for the election, you go out to a bar, whatever. Use discretion and watch your surroundings. Muriel Bowser, Pamela Smith. I saw Pamela Smith, the chief of police, on TV talking about violence will not be tolerated for tomorrow, which is kind of hypocritical. People getting killed every other day in D.C. It just doesn't make the news. So tomorrow, violence is not going to be tolerated for election day. But after election day, 12:01 into the next day, we can carry on with the guns and senseless killings and murders and all that stuff. But look, tomorrow for election day, violence will not be tolerated. So, that's basically a bunch of political rhetoric from the chief of police, the Muriel Bowser standing in the background, the cronies. You see them. You see them standing there. And I mean, I get it. They got jobs, so you kind of got to play your part. So you're a crony. You got to play the puppet role. I can understand. You got to do what you got to do. But however, that's a bunch of BS. You know what I'm saying? In reference to there will be no violence tomorrow in reference to election, and it won't be tolerated. But any other day is tolerated. You can get a child shot. Some of these children are innocent, getting caught with stray bullets. But you don't see the chief of police talking on the TV after that happens, talking about this will no longer be tolerated. they prayers to the family, the same old BS, and they go on to the wait till the next shooting happens, and then it's more BS about. I was getting ready to say the actual word, but I know a lot of times, sometimes people may watch this with their kids, so I'm respectable of that. I'm from the old school, so I don't do a whole lot of cursing and things like that in front of children. That's just the way I was raised. But you get a lot of the BS coming from the mayor and things like that when they have no intentions and really no care for the world in reference to the violence that's going on to the city. But tomorrow, there will be no tolerance for violence, according to Pamela Smith. Well, that sounds good. And of course, they'll play the game with the statistics, crime is down, and things like that. I mean, that's a bunch of BS. They play with numbers. I've seen it personally myself. I've seen top flight commanders go to CompStat meetings and lie to the citizens. It happens. Statistics are often manipulated. And who can actually prove what they're saying is right? And a lot of times, if you go to some of these PSA meetings and they tell you that the crime is down, ask this question: based on what? What are you comparing it to? I had one situation where I actually took the time to ask, and one of them responded based on 1990. 1990, DC was the leading city in homicide. You know, it was the murder capital of the world. So anything compared to the 1990s is lower, you know, but that's all political games they play and just basically putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole approach. They tell you what you want to hear, and some people actually believe the BS. But look, I'm not going to be on here long. This is something I'm real serious about. I want you to, if you do go out and vote, watch your back. And it's not necessarily about anybody targeting you because you're voting for this person or that person, but you know, like I know, a lot of the police are going to be mobilized on details. They have basically set up a perimeter, an entire perimeter around Howard University. That basically means that you can't get into that area or basically out of that area without a bunch of nonsense. So if you live in that vicinity, you're going to have some problems because Kamala Harris has set up her basically election watch there, which is creative. You know, it's a creative thing to do, but those in these neighborhoods, you're going to have some serious problems. And from what I understand, individuals that work at Howard University, they've already put out a mandate, no call outs. They don't care about any of that. And if you try it, they got Ubers and Lyfts that they will pay for to get you to work. So those of you that work in Howard University, hey, I don't think the call out thing gonna work. They already got plans for y'all to come in regardless. If y'all had to be flown in by one of the maybe the MPD helicopters or something. No, I'm just kidding on that. But no, they really have, from what I understand, already put in place Ubers and Lyfts and ride shares for y'all to get to work. So don't try that call out stuff. And in most cases, the results to the election, I doubt it very seriously if they will be ready at the end of the night. They're talking about it may take up to Thursday before they actually know what's going on. So I mean, you know, obviously if you stay up all night just to, you know, basically for nothing and you don't have any results, obviously you're gonna be going to work tired, or you calling out or taking up. Smart thing to do would be take off, you know, ahead of time, because like I say, this is probably going to be one of the most controversial elections, regardless of which direction it goes. It's gonna be a problem. And like I said before, and I'm going to say it again because I'm emphasizing this for a reason. If Donald Trump wins, let me say it again. Say it with me. If Donald Trump wins, there's going to be violence. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. Now, again, the Metropolitan Police Department is not going to tell you this. They're going to hit you with, there are no credible threats to the best of their knowledge. You remember that? That sounds familiar, right? The mayor's not going to tell you anything. Now, mind you, they do have a lot of intelligence they're not going to share with you. So, in other words, basically you're on your own. The Metropolitan Police Department a lot of times doesn't get information from the federal authorities. So they basically leave us, in so many words, a lot of times the officers with their pants down. The Secret Service and FBI and federal agencies a lot of times have threats that are credible that they never share with the Metropolitan Police Department or local police departments to inform them of what's really going on. So how can the local police protect you if they don't even know about it? But again, like I said, I'm telling you this for a reason. I'm not saying that this is going to be in D.C. I'm not saying it's going to be in Maryland. I'm not going to pinpoint it at all. But I am going to say it again. If Donald Trump loses, there's going to be violence. I don't know if it's going to be like the Capitol. I can't pinpoint it. I'm not psychic, but I got some knowledge. And I'm letting you know, I personally would not go out tomorrow. That's just me. And like I said, I'm a legal gun owner for over 30 years. Carried everywhere I go, just like a driver's license. Wouldn't leave home without it. Whether I'm getting gas or whether I'm going to a grocery store. You just can't leave home without it nowadays. The youngins, and I don't know if you ever saw this picture, female was carjacked, I believe at a Safeway. And why she came back, I don't know, because the youngins put a gun in her face and she came back and actually got a good picture of the youngins. They look like kids. But in that situation, you pointing a gun at me, it would be a tragedy to obviously have to discharge and defend yourself and discharge a weapon and possibly result in a child's death. Like anybody, I have a child, but what are you supposed to do if a child puts a gun in your face to carjack you? You got your family with you and you are a legal gun owner and you have the right to defend yourself. And I tell anybody, as I've said before, it's coming up on the holidays. There's a video that goes into Black Friday. You need to watch it. If you haven't watched it, watch it again, because the thefts and the robberies are going to be off the chain. There is no police. I'm going to let you know that now. The police are already tied up. I spoke with some officers that are still on. They're going to let them carry their leave over from this year because everything is, as far as taking off, you can't take off. They right now, I believe it's been maybe a week now, they're on 12-hour shifts for the election. After the election, it'll be something else. So they really can't take off. And eventually, the overtime is good, but you burn out real quick. And next thing you know, you're irritable, you're snapping at your significant other or your children for no reason. That does take its toll on you, spending 12 hours at work and days off, canceling all that. And then the money is good. The money is good. I'll tell you, during the Mount Pleasant riots in the 1990s, it was nothing like bringing a $5,000 check home every 2 weeks. We was making the money, but on the same note, you didn't go home. Some guys lived far. Some guys lived in Pennsylvania. Some guys lived past Kings Dominion. Yes, we got guys and girls that live that far, women rather, you know what I'm saying? They live that far. So what did they do? The Red Cross provided the cots and all that stuff, and the meals, and stuff like that, the meals that you can prepare, like in the military if you're out in the woods. Come on there. It's not like sleeping in your bed. Obviously if you're tired, you'll sleep on the floor. But on the same note, this is going to be a hell of a holiday season, so I'm just letting y'all know. Get prepared. Those of you that are comfortable with legal gun ownership, there's a video on legal gun ownership. It's not impossible to get. It's very attainable in Washington, D.C. and other areas. And I would suggest, if you're comfortable with owning a firearm, it might be something you might want to look into, because I'm here to tell you, I don't have no cut cards. The Metropolitan Police Department is thin, paper thin. Now, I can't speak on PG County. I can't speak on Montgomery County or any other department, but in most cases, it's the same thing. There are no police. The police are retiring extremely quick, or quitting, resigning, getting terminated, or whatever. So you see it for yourself. There is no law enforcement really out there nowadays as far as manpower or woman power, to be politically correct. They can barely get a whole shift together because of things like details. Now, obviously, if you got 1,000 details going on for the perimeter of Howard University, that, I'm going to be honest, that's going to exhaust the entire Metropolitan Police Department for the most part. That magnitude of a detail is going to exhaust the entire Metropolitan Police Department. Now, of course, during these events, they have the police and fire department clinic home a lot of times 24 hours. So if you play the sick game, you go directly to the clinic. And the clinic is in bed with the police department. So kind of like the NFL doctors, they're not going to really look out for your welfare. They're not. They're going to get you back. Their job is to get you back on the field. And in the case with the Metropolitan Police Department, Fire Department, clinic, their job is to get you back on the street. Now, granted, you may not be in condition where you're going to actually die or anything like that. But in a lot of cases, you shouldn't go back on the street. But because malingering is so prevalent among the Metropolitan Police Department and other institutions. Where basically what I'm saying is people fake it because they don't want to work a detail, so they'll complain about a headache. Obviously, you can't get in somebody's head and say that they don't have a headache. The Metropolitan Police Department, one of the dirty tactics they used is if you went sick, you have to go to the police clinic in full uniform. Now imagine putting all that BS on and you got to go to the police clinic. You obviously, your blood, if you're really sick, your blood pressure is going to be up anyway because you got a belt on, you got a vest on. They want you to come there as a deterrent from people that are actually malingering or lying about their condition. But what about the people that's actually sick? You mean tell me I got to put on my full uniform, go to the clinic, police and fire department clinic, and get my blood, and I mean not my blood, get my blood pressure done, not blood work, but they basically are mediocre doctors, and a lot of times sometimes they're not even doctors that specialize in whatever is going on with you. A lot of times they're working part-time. I know years ago I went to the police and fire department clinic for something. Might have been sick call. And the person that saw there was a doctor. She dealt with kids. She wasn't even a doctor that dealt with adults, but she was working part-time there. And she was basically soliciting me. She said, do you have a child? I said, yeah, I have a child. She said, you know, I have a practice right here at Providence, which she's not supposed to do. You know me, I'm playing the game just so I can get some extra days off. So I'm gonna basically play my role in this and try to stretch it out as long as I can. But on the same note, you know, when you're really sick and you have an issue, a lot of times it basically is in those doctors' hands. And even if you are legitimately sick or something is wrong with you, if it's during an event, they take you through hell. You know, they make you feel like, you know, you're BSing, or a lot of times they'll put you on limited duty. Now, if you're really sick, what can I really do in the station? They don't care about that. They just want to basically keep the manpower levels somewhat high so they can lie to the citizen. Now, a lot of times they'll tell you how many people they got actually on the street. That's some more BS. That doesn't count the people that are on sick leave, limited duty, or non-contact. There's so many lies they tell every day within the Metropolitan Police Department and other agencies throughout the United States, and most people don't know. I'm here to tell you it's a bunch of BS. But this is just a briefing. I'll have some more stuff coming up soon. I'm going, like I said, I got a couple of videos. I'm going to go into the officer that was acquitted that chased the gentleman, I believe, from Tyson's 2 or Tyson's 1 mall, and ended up chasing him into the woods, and supposedly the gentleman pulled out or he couldn't see his hands, so he shot him. He was charged with I think something minor, but it wasn't manslaughter or murder. I think basically discharging a firearm recklessly or something like that. Basically, he beat a murder charge. Now, I'm here to tell you, like I told you before, I don't have no cut cards. I deal straight with reality. I'm not going to stand behind the police because I used to be a police for 20 nights. I'm going to tell it like it is. That particular police officer beat a murder charge. How in the hell, and this is off the subject, but then I'm going to let y'all go, can you chase somebody that's shoplifting, no backup, you chase him into the woods? Obviously, you got him boxed in. You say that you can't see his, or you scream and let me see your hands, and then you shoot him and kill him. Now, mind you, this is over a pair of shades, designer shades. I mean, come on. You could have gotten killed yourself with no backup. He could have had a gun, and y'all could have had exchange of gunfire, and you could have died. So the officer was straight reckless and put himself in a situation where he committed manslaughter, in my opinion. A lot of people might say, oh man, I thought you was a police officer. You supposed to be down with the blue. Man, I'm down with reality, because that could have been one of my loved ones. Not saying that it's right to shoplift, but why should my loved one be killed over a pair of designer shades? Now, of course, yeah, if you catch him, put him in jail. You know, he got to pay for the consequences of being a shoplifter or whatever, but shoplifting, where is it worthy of death? You know, he basically killed a guy for some glasses, and you don't hear nothing about it. You don't hear no talk about it. There's no uprising. There's no march. And, you know, people a lot of times get so used to police brutality that it becomes norm. And a lot of times if you mistreat somebody or do it long enough, it becomes normal. And basically, like the example with the guy that was shot in the drive-thru at McDonald's. Now, me personally, I personally will go into that later, but I believe that shooting was justified, but in the same sense, could it have been prevented? Yes. Why did the officer stick his weapon And I'm talking about the Metropolitan Police. Why would a Metropolitan Police officer stick his weapon all the way in the window where it could be grabbed? You don't have to put your weapon inside of the window to shoot. You can shoot from any distance where you can visibly see your target. So you could have had a distance between yourself and the suspect. And of course, there are a lot of things they could have done. A lot of people are like, well, they didn't have to shoot him. Well, look, in the general orders, there are no guidelines, or there were no guidelines. There may be some now. How to handle a situation when someone falls asleep with a gun. This isn't the first time it's been done. Now, could they have blown some darts like in the jungle or something, some tranquilizer darts like you shoot an elephant? They don't do that. The Metropolitan Police Department doesn't have that. Now, could they have gotten on a loudspeaker? Could they have backed off and set up a perimeter and basically, had this individual get out on a felony traffic stop? Get out, put your hands on top of your heads, back up to her slowly, get on your knees and have somebody apprehend him like that? Absolutely, that could have happened. But were they thinking about that? A lot of times you got a lot of young officials that mean well, they passed that multiple choice test, but they have no experience. Doesn't matter how good you are taking tests, but if you have no experience in actually policing and law enforcement, you'll basically be reading from the script and reading from the general orders. Okay, well, wait a minute, he was supposed to do this. And a lot of times on the street, they have no experience as far as dealing with real situations. That's why if you saw the video in reference to the McDonald's, and I'm kind of touching on that, you'll see an ambulance in the line of fire of, if they started shooting. It was a lot of crossfire. There were officers on the other side of the car. So if they all started shooting from different directions, obviously some officers are going to get hit, or some citizens in the area. And you already know somebody was actually filming, which, this is a new generation. To me, it's somewhat kind of goofy. If I see the police out with a bunch of guns and it's a barricade situation, I'm not filming. I'm getting out of there because, first of all, a lot of your Metropolitan Police Department officers don't shoot well. I'll leave that there. And not only that, a bullet doesn't really have a name. Straight bullets, they go long distances. You'd be surprised. So I can't see filming a situation like that. I know, people do it for the likes and clickbait and all that. I'm going to go viral and all that. Hey, this is a new generation. I'm really not into all that. But look, like I said before, I'm going to say it again. Let's stay on topic. If Donald Trump wins, there's going to be violence. Loses, there's going to be violence. If he wins, there still could be some violence. But what I'm basically hitting at, if he loses, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. Now, I'm not threatening and I'm not with Donald Trump. I'm not going to participate in the violence. And I'm just hitting y'all with some real facts. And like I said, if you don't believe me, just kick back and watch. There's going to be violence if he loses. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be in D.C. They're going to go back to the Capitol, whatever. But somebody's already making some plans if he loses. You've already seen what happened. There's been some attempts on Donald Trump's life already, and it's hard to really pinpoint where that was all about. That Secret Service hasn't really talked about it. They've kind of kept that kind of low. Even the gentleman that was killed in the process that was in the crowd, they haven't really talked about that a lot. You don't know anything about this individual. You don't even know about the individuals that were actually shot and that one apprehended. They haven't really talked about it. It was like they just swept him up and magically made him disappear. Make you think, right? I wonder why. I know why, but that's a whole nother topic. Look, if you go out again to vote, watch your surroundings. Not necessarily in reference to violence from the election, but obviously people are going to be out there to take advantage of people slipping, robberies and things like that. You leave your stuff in your vehicle, subject to get broken into. They know the police won't be actually police. Not that they police now anyway, but they won't be police, and they're going to be focused on these voting locations and safety of the voters. So everything else in the city, you can basically just take over, because all of the police are going to be in the locations giving special attention to the voting locations, which I understand, but you still have to maintain the staffing for regular calls for service and things that are in progress, which they don't. So if you go out, again, be careful. Tell your loved ones, watch their backs. And I personally, this is just me, I wouldn't go out tomorrow night to watch the election anyway. I just wouldn't. You just don't know. But you'll see what I'm talking about as time goes on. And when I'm saying violence is going to occur if Donald Trump loses, I did not necessarily mean the same hour, night, day. But you'll see what I'm talking about. All I'm saying is, mark my word, if he loses, there's going to be violence. And I'll leave it there. So again, subscribe, share, and hit the like button. Like I said, that's not monetized, nothing like that. I'm just trying to give you some good information that you're not going to get from Muriel Bowser. You're not going to get from Pamela Smith. You're not going to get from none of your local politicians, because they're not going to tell you that even when there is a threat, they're not going to tell you this because they don't want to disrupt your mental state. Rather tell you the truth and let you possibly save your life. They'd rather you go into basically into the water with no life saving and watch you drown. And I was like, well, we should have said something, yeah, but we didn't want to alarm them. Look, watch your backs out there. I'm gone to the next time.